It was a wild jungle ride for an actor and producer who made an unexpected leap to action star.
I just didn't know how much work it was to make a fun movie.
It put a twist on classic movie adventure tales by creating a gutsy action heroine. And it catapulted a struggling first-time screenwriter into the ranks of Hollywood's elite.
I read all your books.
How a low-budget action adventure found treasure at the box office. On Backstory, Romancing the Stone.
I'm in trouble.
What's the matter?
I need you to bring that map to me in Colombia.
Colombia?
Released in 1984, Romancing the Stone told the exciting and lighthearted tale of a romance novelist named Joan Wilder, who's on a life-and-death mission to rescue her kidnapped sister.
What?
The bears.
On the way, she meets a mysterious adventurer who changes her world forever.
Joan Wilder, welcome to Colombia.
He likes the edge. He doesn't like being tied down.
In about 5 minutes, everything I own in the world's gonna be wet, so can you lighten up, please?
And he meets this girl by accident who's the entire opposite of everything that he is or believe to be.
Drinking? I could have been killed. You're drinking.
But before Romancing the Stone could see the light of day, it became an uphill battle for an unproven female screenwriter, an action script that centered on a woman, and a female studio chief looking for a hit.
This guy's crazier than I am.
When you follow your dream, the universe conspires in your favor. So this was a conspiracy of the universe in our favor.
The saga began in the late 1970s, when would-be screenwriter Diane Thomas conceived a story that mirrored her own dreams of adventure and success. Thomas had traded her Midwestern roots to become a writer in Hollywood. And in 1978, she dedicated herself to writing a script, which she worked on each day after long hours of waitressing. A fan of adventure movies, Diane created Romancing the Stone, an exciting mix of comedy, action, and romance. The determined Thomas used a friend's agent to submit the script to several producers, among them Michael Douglas.
Originally, I wasn't even thinking about playing the part. I've always been thinking as a producer and not thinking of parts for me as an actor.
The son of actor Kirk Douglas, Michael had carved his own niche as co-star of the hit TV series The Streets of San Francisco. He was also an Oscar-winning producer of thought-provoking films.
Michael Douglas was someone who had been the lesser star of a TV show and was not taken seriously as a major star. He had made good as a producer, but not a movie star.
Thomas was ecstatic when Douglas paid her $250,000 for the script, which originally he planned only to produce. Unfortunately, no studio was willing to finance the film. And as weeks turned into years, Thomas feared her script would never make it to the big screen. But Douglas continued to search for funding, along with bankable stars.
We wanted to get two superstars. We thought Clint Eastwood and Barbra Streisand would be a great pairing.
At one point, he thought Jack Nicholson would be terrific, and people said to Michael, this is your role. You should be the guy doing this. And I think he realized what they were saying was true. So he said, okay, I'm going to do it.
There's so few good parts that you might as well, if you're going to produce, find something for yourself to act in.
But many Hollywood insiders were skeptical about Douglas's decision to take on the role. Michael had never starred in an action movie and wasn't considered a box office draw.
We were going to do the picture at Columbia, but Columbia got cold feet.
In 1982, Douglas finally found an ally, 20th Century Fox production chief Sherry Lansing, who'd recently made history as the first woman to head a major studio. Lansing loved Diane Thomas's concept of a female action hero. She had also worked with Douglas on the film The China Syndrome. Now, Douglas could focus on finding an actress to bring Diane Thomas's heroine to life. Douglas considered several stars, including Deborah Winger.
And then we heard about this young woman named Kathleen Turner, but this was a big part for somebody who didn't have a big profile at the time.
28-year-old Kathleen Turner had stormed Hollywood 2 years earlier as a sexy femme fatale in the thriller Body Heat.
She came out of the blue, and a blazing streak of sexuality With Body Heat, people were profoundly impressed by her, but the box office was not such that you can do whatever you want afterward. So she really needed to prove herself.
Please, I need your help.
That's my new career.
Kathleen came in and we interviewed her for the part. Two of them got along famously.
Douglas made another shrewd choice, casting the role of Ralph, the shifty but endearing crook who follows Joan as she tries to deliver a treasure map to her sister's captors. Douglas chose Danny DeVito, a longtime friend and a star of the sitcom Taxi.
I lost my langostino.
Like Douglas, DeVito was not a proven film star, but the producer was confident that he would bring a crucial comic energy to the role.
Well, this kidnapping stuff makes me real nervous.
He was actually very funny and had great timing. He did his own stunts falling off of the desk in the police department.
But choosing a director proved the biggest risk of all. Ultimately, Douglas banked on a true long shot, a promising but struggling filmmaker named Robert Zemeckis. The 31-year-old had directed 2 movies produced by Steven Spielberg, both of which bombed at the box office. He'd also co-written one of the most notorious flops of the 1970s.
He helped write 1941 for Steven Spielberg, and he got to see a train wreck in action and got some of the credit for it.
I was stigmatized in those days by being a filmmaker whose movies didn't make any money.
Romancing the Stone gave Zemeckis one last chance to prove himself as a commercially viable director.
I loved his movies, I Want to Hold Your Hand and Used Cars. I love the courage that he showed. He showed a really fresh, spontaneous style.
And every time, Michael would bring my name up, they would say, "Are you kidding? I mean, this is a big movie. It's got all this action." And he was very instrumental in sticking with me for the, as far as presenting me to the studio to be the director.
But by the time cameras were ready to roll, the film had lost one of its major champions. Sherry Lansing had left the studio. Now, for producer Michael Douglas, the pressure was on. Armed with just $9.5 million, no major movie stars, and a first-time screenwriter, Douglas set out to deliver a box office bullseye.
Now, I ain't cheap, but I can be had. My minimum price for taking a stranded woman to a telephone was $400.
Will you take $375 in traveler's checks?
American Express?
Of course.
Got a deal.
In the summer of 1983, screenwriter Diane Thomas excitedly hoped for the best as producer Michael Douglas and his team headed for the exotic jungles of Mexico to film Romancing the Stone.
Action!
It was the start of what quickly became an overwhelming 3-month shoot, and problems began immediately.
No one had told me about the rainy season. So we got down there, and it started raining, and then all of a sudden the roads would be gone to a location, or a mudslide would take something out. It was rough.
You got an umbrella?
We would have to track all of the equipment down little narrow dirt winding roads into canyons and so forth.
But enduring a gauntlet of weather and rough terrain wasn't the only challenge. Diane Thomas's script was filled with spectacular stunts, and Kathleen Turner agreed to perform some of them herself.
Okay, let's make some time.
We built a flat trench on flat ground, kind of a pipe sled, mounted the camera on it. The actors would lay on it. Then we had guys pulling the sled along this kind of trench. And then we had guys with buckets who were just throwing water on these, the poor cast members as they would be dragged through it.
They were really into it. They did the slide down the mud and into the water and the flip-flop with his head between her legs.
I'm telling you, this has turned out to be one hell of a morning.
She wanted to do it. You know, all the insurance people, and they were worried, not the actors. They enjoyed it very much.
If Douglas was on a mission to become a believable action hero, Turner was also making a daring image change, playing the less than glamorous Joan Wilder.
She was shockingly convincing as a complete front. For at least the first third or half of this movie, which was very gutsy of her, and she is gutsy, but you couldn't help liking her.
It was pretty rough at times, but it's quite one thing just to read a script and say, oh, gosh, she's wet. And another thing, to walk on set at 7 o'clock in the morning and have the hose turned on you. Michael and I were wet all the time.
Rain, mudslides, and other weather crises constantly pushed the production further behind schedule, and director Robert Zemeckis was feeling the pressure.
His life was about that film. Bob was struggling to stay on schedule in spite of all of that, and yet deliver what had to be really a fun film.